Welcome, this is Beyond the Breach, where we look at cyber incidents and focus on what becomes clear once the headlines fade. I'm Darren Thompson, and today I want to start with a framing episode, because before we talk about specific attacks, we need to talk about consequences. Not just what happens during an incident, but what happens because of it. The long tail that tends to affect companies in unexpected ways subsequent to an attack. Most cyber incidents unfold in two very distinct phases. The first phase is loud. It's immediate. It's dominated by urgency, incomplete information, legal pressure, reputational risk, and the need to act fast. And of course, this phase is critical. Without it, organizations just don't survive at all. But it's not the phase that determines whether an organization becomes stronger or weaker in the long term. That happens later. During a breach, and understandably, focus is on tactical things. People mobilize teams, they restore systems, they protect customers, they communicate as best they can under often extreme pressure. What they don't do enough of, often because they can't, is reflect. Even after the crisis is over, sometimes months after the attack, my experience has been that organizations tend to want to move on to more positive things, put the attack behind them. They don't pause to ask things like, what behaviours are we reinforcing right now? What emergency decisions are now becoming default practice? What risks are we simply accepting in order to get through today? This isn't failure, it's an unintended consequence of operating under extreme stress. But those unexamined decisions don't disappear after the breach. They carry forward and they affect organizations in the long term. Decisions made under pressure cast long shadows, in other words. Temporary controls become permanent constraints. Architectural shortcuts become embedded design. Risk tolerance shifts quietly without deliberate agreement. Months later, organizations find themselves slower, more cautious, less adaptable, without fully understanding why. This is how incidents, in my experience, reshape companies post-breach. At the moment of impact, success is defined very narrowly, of course. Are the systems back? Is the business operating? Has the immediate threat passed? 30 days later, the questions change. What did we choose to control? Why did that exception never get removed? Why does every new initiative now feel a little bit harder? 3 to 6 months later, the real consequences start to surface. Temporary becomes permanent. Emergency governance becomes standard. Decisions made in fear quietly harden into organizational strategy. This is where time becomes the most important analytical lens. What rarely makes the headlines are the second-order effects. Teams become more risk-averse. Decision-making slows because confidence has been shaken. Investment shifts from long-term resilience to short-term reassurance. Innovation is traded for appearance of control. Technically, the organization may be more secure. Strategically, it could be weaker. This is why cyber resilience as a program, a continuous improvement program, matters. Resilience isn't just about recovery time, though that's critical. It's about ensuring an organization can absorb shock without permanently distorting itself. True resilience allows decisive response without locking emergency behavior into long-term posture. It creates space to recover systems and then recover judgment. Without that, every incident leaves a deep scar. I wanted to start Beyond the Breach with these perspectives because it frames everything that's going to follow in this podcast. If we only analyze incidents at the height of pressure, we optimize for survival. If we look again once the headlines fade, we can optimize for resilience. That's a space we're going to live in this podcast series. Thanks for joining me. That's the clarity I wanted to explore today. Beyond the Breach.